with a brilliant visionary action plan that's ready to embrace a future of hope and prosperity. And we encourage like-minded Bahamians just like you to participate with intelligent and honest contributions. After all, my friends, we have a country to build. We've got jobs and industry to create. We've got a people to inspire and empower. And generations of born and unborn Bahamians, we the people, must protect and plan for. And if not you, then who? If not now, then when? Today on Hard Copy, we take the overall view over a lot of things, or on a lot of matters, including the current affairs matters that are happening right now. Paul Moss is going to join me as special guest here on the show, and we invite your calls because this is a new week and lots of new things expected to happen.
Uncle John stopped by. Frankie's wife didn't cook again, so he looking for dinner. And while you just never know who'll be knocking on your door, so keep your shelf stocked with great savings at Super Value and quality supermarkets like Value Time Cornflakes 18-ounce box, $1.99. Abacoa chickens, $1.99 per pound. Distinction evaporated milk large can, 99 cents. Riceland rice 5-pound bag, $2.99. Sweet yellow corn free for $1.79. Oscar Mayer bacon 16-ounce pack, $5.99. Stock up at Super Value and quality supermarkets.
Driving on West Bay in rush hour? Hard. Getting a new car to enjoy the ride? Easy. Carting the kids around after school? Hard. Getting a car to fit them all? Easy. Get an easy auto loan from Commonwealth Bank. Super low rates, fast 24-hour approval, no loan fee, and no payments for 2 months. So come to Commonwealth Bank, and your next car is easy. Commonwealth Bank. Terms and conditions apply.
Based on the premise of anything you can do, we can do better in the Bahamas. The Bahamian Brewery is 100% Bahamian owned and operated. Our thanks to you, Bahamas, for supporting our family of beers and beverages. Sands, Sands Light, High Rock, Strong Back, Bush Crack, Pink Sands, and Triple B. Brewed and bottled here and consumed right here in our Bahamas. Now that's truly Bahamian. The Bahamian Brewery encourages all of its fans to drink in moderation.
What you doing?
Oh, child, I right here tidying up. What you saying?
Hi, you ain't want let's go to Superwash today.
What happened? I ain't no problem, now. You and Junior still mad, eh?
Kinda. I guess I should have taken his cell phone from him before I did put him in that dryer.
Yeah, he can catch himself. Don't worry about that. That was only a bubbler anyhow. When you thinking about going?
I on your time, What time you could go?
Well, if you're going, let's go now. Because I will get there before Love It or Leave It come on.
Now, I don't believe it called Love It or Leave It,
Don't matter. You know what I'm talking about, right? Plus, we got to get there because I will get my special seat.
So which Superwash we going to, though?
Blue Hill Road.
Oh, but I know what seat you talking about. That's the one where you could stretch right off and do nobody disturb you.
You got that right. I coming right now, child. Superwash. They washes your presence, it cleans you, and entertains you 24/7.
Mark the dates. June 26th through 30th. It's the Assemblies of God's 62nd Biennial General Council meeting in Nassau, Bahamas. The place, Evangelistic Temple, Collins Avenue. The time, 7:30 p.m. nightly. The theme, the Kingdom of God culture. The Assemblies of God, Bahamas, Turks and Caicos Island, invites one and all associate churches, members, and friends to this grand event. Go out and hear from Reverend Dr. Patrick Paul, Reverend Dr. James Bradford, Bishop Jerry Seal, Reverend Dr. James Davis, Reverend Dr. Robert Lockhart, Reverend Dr. Vaughn Cash, and many others as they speak to the Kingdom of God culture. All services will be held at Evangelistic Temple. Mark the dates. June 26th through 30th, 7:30 p.m. nightly. The Assemblies of God's 62nd Conference, Nassau, Bahamas.
And now, here's a message from Bishop Neil C. Ellis.
Most people are all right with you as long as you are under them. And two, people do not generally get happy for you because you're doing well. Now you got to learn those two things. Because if you don't learn those two things, you are going to respond inadequately to your haters. people are not necessarily going to celebrate your progress. People will celebrate it because they are presently in your face, and even then they'll do it with an attitude.
You have some people who claim that they want a free market, they want the economy to spread, they want our entrepreneurial spirit to rise and to open. But then on the other hand, you have people who have no intention of this happening and are very invested in things remaining the same as it always was. That's what we have to fight against right now. God wants a partnership with this government. They just have to be willing.
We all have certain political preferences, but that has never stopped me from embracing every opportunity to give national service.
Hey, let's get away!
It is Monday, the 19th day in the month of June 2017. As you battle the congested city streets and drive home traffic, we have partly cloudy skies for you. 88 degrees right now in the nation's capital. There is a low tonight of 81. It's been kind of warm, right? 20% chance of rain in the forecast, and we thank you so much for joining us on the drive home. I'm Steve McKinney. This is Hard Copy. We're brought to you today by Interior, Exterior Windows and Doors. Bank of the Bahamas, the Bank of Solutions. Assemblies of God 62nd Council Gathering here in Nassau, the end of this month. Mount Tabor's Inspiration, Bahamas Foot and Ankle on Lake Road. Super Value, the All Bahamian Supermarkets, the Bahamian Supermarket, of course. And, of course, Rocky Farms Nursery on Seabreeze Lane. Good things are happening at Rocky Farms. Big discounts are coming up. I'll tell you all about it. Water and Sewage Corporation, the Ministry of Tourism, travel the islands this summer. Echo Water, the official water of Hard Copy. Commonwealth Bank, the new debit card. Available now. You can qualify to get one. Go ahead and do it. Cool Tech, the air can do experts on Tonique Williams Darling Highway. Boy, the summer's here, and you know what that means, right? You got to be cooling out in that nice air can do from Cool Tech. Bahamian Brewery and Beverages, Super Wash, open 24/7, Advantage Insurance and Broker, 61 Collins Avenue. Ron's Electric Motors, Claridge of Wolf Road, Executive Printers on Jerome Avenue. And, of course, the McKinney Media Group Limited, advertisements and public relations, our specialty. Call Hard Copy today, right now, 325-023546, 325-024-2043. WhatsApp and texting 376-9234. You can follow us on the World Wide Web at peace1075.com. Hard Copy YouTube channel to watch. Cable top box at 970. Plus, you can get us on BTC Flow on the go. It's at 613. And, of course, TuneIn Radio, my favorite, iPad, iPhone, and the Android. You can get us on there. Hear us anywhere in the world. Of course, our radio app as well. There's a new app that's called Radio Air. Check it out. And, of course, download and you'll hear Hard Copy and Peace all day long. Follow us on Facebook, Hard Copy, and on Twitter, Hard Copy Bahamas. Brand new week. Thank God you made it. Lots of things are happening. And, of course, these are exciting times, as you know. And one of the exciting things is the fact that there's a group that's called the Free National Movement, the government of the Bahamas. They're looking under every rock and in every crevice, trying to find what is wrong and what happened in this country as far as the people's monies are concerned. And nobody blames them because this is what must happen. Of course, there's a lot of people right now who are giving feedback and saying, look, it ain't me, and we didn't do anything wrong. And of course, that remains to be seen, because at the end of the day, whatever the government decides to do, as far as investigations and prosecutions and the like, that will be the decision left to them to do, but people are watching it. Of course, this past week has been a hell of a week as far as all the things that took place and things that allegedly took place. There's this whole big dispute now that's happening from NAD, and what happened at the airport with the rental space of a particular Bahamian businesswoman. And Glennis Hannah Martin is in the news today saying that, really, this is something that's really layers and layers of stuff that happen even before their time, and some things that happen prior to their time. And so it's very complicated. As far as I'm concerned, she says it's very complicated. That means that it seems to warrant an investigation just to make sure that everything is on the up and up. And I suppose that if there's nothing to hide, there's nothing to worry about. Glennis, of course, will be my guest later on this week. And lots of things that we're going to be talking about in that particular show as well. And then, of course, there's the young man who's an outstanding Bahamian, who, in fact, has been doing a number of things internationally in the United Kingdom, who was named by Dionisio de Agua, the new Minister of Tourism, as the young man who, in fact, was making all this money. Some people have a problem that Dionisio de Agua had said that because some people have already looked at it and extrapolated from it that, look, Bahamians could make some money too. And they took it to being that, it seems as if this guy was suspicious just because he's a Bahamian fellow who's trying to make something good. Well, of course, I'm sure Dionisio de Agua is not that kind of a person. He didn't mean it that way, I suppose. But sometimes you've got to be careful how things come across. And this one comes across that way to a lot of people who had been in my circles or people who I spoke with on the weekend past. And so I got to just look at it and say, I'll just wait and see how this thing all pans out. But apparently, the former minister of tourism, Obi Wilshcombe, spoke on this issue today. He spoke on Friday, I suppose, and told the media that there's nothing untoward, nothing at all. He says here's a Bahamian who came back, was invited back to the Bahamas by the Right Honorable Prime Minister Perry Gladstone Christie because of his skills and talents and what he brought to the table in the area of culture and all the organization and organizing skills that he brought with the culture thing. And they needed to have some people like him, Bahamian, who wanted to come home and show what they learned and all that kind of stuff. And he was somebody who was hired all across the United Kingdom and did well. And so as a result of that, they brought him in to do what he did, and that was his fees. Now, his fees, a lot of people get this thing all mixed up and screwed around, and that's why I kind of jump on it sometimes, and I tell you, look, this kind of work is very expensive. The gentleman, Mr. Ian Poiter, I think is his name, a brilliant young man who's been doing a good job. He says that, look, I went cheap. He says that, I did it from a point of view of trying to get into the door, and so my fees were basically cheap. And it's true. If anybody knows the rates of these kind of things to coordinate and put it all together with all this whole thing that he was doing, with all the Seek Awards and all this is not a little jokey thing. But you see, sometimes we have this notion that it costs all of that, and who this dude is, and it's a Bahamian fellow. You got to get out of that. We've got to learn to respect people in their professionalism, in their profession. And as professionals, we've got to understand that, this is the man's price. It went through the whole system. He looked at it. He says, ministry. And they said, okay, well, this is a good price. They were able to make the comparisons. And they say, well, when we compare this to that, we can get it for this. This is not bad. This is Bahamian too. Plus he's home. Plus he's been able to do some work at home. You know what we've been complaining about all the time? That our young people go away, go to college, and can't come home to get no job. I got a son. My son, Steve Jr., you don't like me to tell people this, but, this fellow is hired to be a part of CNN and them. I make him come home. He's right there producing the show right now. I say, boy, you got to come home and help Daddy. Daddy doing a little radio station. Of course, he's skilled with his degrees and all this television thing and all that. But I said, come home and help me out. So he comes home, can't get no job. I say, but look, he's working here. We got to pay him. The point what I'm making is that we be saying these things, and I believe that we're paying lip service to these kinds of things. I hope we're not, because we have a new country and we've got to build it. So while this may be the case that the present minister thought that this was extremely, exorbitant to pay this kind of money for consultancy. See, when you look at consultant, that kind of make people think that he's just somebody who come and say, point at that, do that, and go. No, man. They are working consultants who put it all together. And so we've got to look at the big picture, and that's all I'm saying. Now, of course, Dionisio de Agua is my man of business. You know that. And I support him, and I think he's a brilliant young man. The point is, sometimes we look at things, and just from looking at it, one would believe that it's like this. But here's a young man, Ian Poiter, who has done a good job, very fulfilling. It's good to have him back home. He did jobs before for the Free National Movement government, just like he did for this past administration. And I say, look, he's not interested in no politics. He's a Bahamian who want to come home and work, and he's been able to now to find work in his field. Doggone it, respect that. That's what I'm saying. And I want to leave that there. All right, I leave that there. But you can understand what is happening here. So apparently nothing untoward went down. And even though his fees, to some of us, by some standards, people who don't know the business, they'll say, boy, that's a lot of money. Listen, it's not a lot of money. When you want to talk with a lot of money, you got to talk with the big boys who's make plenty of money. And that ain't me. That's the big boys. I mean, them real big boys. You know, so let us just try to ease back on the throttle with things like this. Now, I don't know the young man. I don't know Ian. I just know about him, but I don't really know him. I've never met him. But the point is, we want to encourage all of our Bahamian brothers and sisters who are all about in the world doing their own thing to come back and help to build this country. Now, how are we going to build this country if, in fact, we are, looking at it and then, what is so bad about the whole matter? Now, Dionisio didn't do this. He's not guilty of this. Dionisio did not do it. But just because he put the information out there as a part of his fact-finding mission, which is his job to do as the minister, there are people who extrapolated from that, boy, this fella looked like he's a crooked. Come on. Come on. Any Bahamian who works and is making a living and you paying the fees that he asks you to pay, right? And this is legitimate because it is. You can't don't give X. Don't start this nonsense, but, he making more money than the prime minister. So what? So what if he is? There are certain jobs in this town that you may make more money than the prime minister. There's nothing wrong with that. What's the problem? He ain't thief no money. You understand? That's what I'm saying. And I'm doing that, basically saying this what I'm saying today because I want us to get a more positive mental attitude. I'm sure that those fellas in the previous government did all kind of foolishness. I'm sure of it. I could almost put my finger and say, yeah, I sure of that. But when you look at these things, you've got to weigh them individually. These are individual cases. And you've got to see it for what it is, not for something else. All right? So let us be mindful of that as we talk. Now, talking about those kinds of things, Dr. Hubert Minnis is really shining these days. He is. And I want to give him that credit and that recognition because there are people who had been saying that, boy, we don't know. This fellow looked like he ain't. But here it is, Dr. Hubert Minnis, the Prime Minister of the Bahamas, has been making his speeches. He's been going around now. He's talking to these different business groups and stuff. He is making his move. He is actually saying some things that are very important and that make real sense. And there are many individuals who are detractors. Their whole thing is that, they believe the propaganda of Christie, that, this fella can't talk, this fella this and the next thing. Here's another great Bahamian, the fourth prime minister of our country, who is now in the chair and is trying to do his job as best he could under some extreme conditions because there's not that much money in the kitty. And he's got to try to manage and keep everything balanced and fair. We want to give him credit and want to tell him that we support that. Go right ahead, Prime Minister, do your thing. And of course, he was in Grand Bahama. Well, not in Grand Bahama, but he was talking about some things in Grand Bahama that we will turn our attention to today. Maritime sports and wellness would be the position of Lukaya when it comes to rebranding events in Grand Bahama. In fact, he's looking at taking the whole island of Grand Bahama and splitting it into 3 unique destinations. And I told you this on Friday, but it's a very, very good idea because Grand Bahama needs that boost in the arm. And nobody was using their creative juices to get anything going. So this is good. It's a good start. And I'm hoping that Grand Bahama is going to warm up to this whole thing and get out of this whole thing about we have a minister for this and the ministers say this. And listen here, the prime minister of this country is in charge of the whole country. And Grand Bahama, while he may have designated some people to be a minister of Grand Bahama, the whole point is this. You all are going to have to, in Freeport, Grand Bahama, get on the ball, have some feedback to the man, and say, this is what we are looking at because these are our problems immediately. And I want to talk about some of that today with Paul Moss when he comes along. All of these things are very important. We're building a country now, friends. Get out of this mind frame and this mode of, well, I know, and I can listen there. Pick up your bed. Walk with it. Let's run with it. We've got to get some things done, and this is the season to get it done. It's the people's time is what they tell me, and I believe that. And boy, I'm going to be talking about that a whole lot. So today on the show, we're going to have Paul Moss, and he's going to talk with us about a number of things because there are many new, fresh approaches that are still not being talked about that the government of the Bahamas can take. And I believe that Paul Moss has been a great asset in saying the things that he has said thus far about this administration. And while there may be some who want to misread what he is saying, the truth of the matter is that Paul is absolutely correct. There are many things that we can be doing that, in fact, can help to grow this economy, but we're not doing it. And we don't want it to go missing on us. We have to say some things that we believe should happen, Paul believes should happen, and his suggestions are noteworthy. And I believe that if we are open-minded and we see the big picture, we will at least make a chase behind some of those things. And I'm not saying that he has all the answers because, he doesn't know everything. Just like me, we don't have all the answers. But the thing is, we have some good suggestions, and you, the people, have some good suggestions. And so we say, let's talk about those things because it's now a positive mode of building. And building means bringing the people along with us, making sure that they too can be empowered economically, and making sure that this is not just a pipe dream again of just talk about all this sweetness that we in charge, but we can share in the wealth of anything in this country. And our idea is to make sure that there's good level playing ground economically across this country. Now, of course, some people ain't interested in that. You know that. So don't fool yourself. But that don't mean that you must lay back and play there just because they ain't interested in that. You must just keep on pushing. Keep on pushing to get your piece of the rock as well, all right? Let's run to the break. When we come back, Paul Moss joins me on the show today. And, of course, you can join too. All you've got to do is give me a telephone call at 325-0235 and be a part of our conversation because it's all positive. Not everything is hunky-dory. Some things you've got to talk about the negative to get to the positive, but the mission is to get it accomplished. That's the mission. This is Hard Copy. We roll along right after these words on this Monday.
What are your travel plans this summer? The Ministry of Tourism invites you to visit one of our many unique family islands and explore the Bahamas like never before. Eleuthera, Exuma, San Salvador, and many more offer exciting vacation packages with affordable airfare, room rates, and exciting things to do. Andros, Bimini, Cat Island are to be considered too. This summer, do something different. Do something bold. Do something uniquely Bahamian. Travel to the family islands and rediscover the Bahamas. For more information, visit myoutisland.com.
Attention homeowners, do you have enough coverage for your home and possessions? Well, if you're not sure, maybe it's time you talk to Advantage Insurance. Your property and belongings are probably worth a lot more now than when you first insured them. After all the natural disasters we have experienced, it's more important than ever to be fully protected. Call Advantage Insurance at 356-0285 or visit us on Collins Avenue today. Advantage Insurance, celebrating 20 years of service.
Based on the premise of anything you can do, we can do better in the Bahamas. The Bahamian Brewery is 100% Bahamian owned and operated. Our thanks to you, Bahamas, for supporting our family of beers and beverages. Sands Light, High Rock, Strong Back, Bush Crack, Pink Sands, and Triple B. Brewed and bottled here and consumed right here in our Bahamas. Now that's truly Bahamian. The Bahamian Brewery encourages all of its fans to drink in moderation.
This year, don't be caught singing the Christmas blues. Start saving now with your own B.O.B. Christmas Club account. Sign up before June 30th with just $20. Earn high interest and have guaranteed spending money in time for Christmas. Don't be left in a bind this year. Let B.O.B.'s Christmas Club account work for you. Sign up today at your nearest B.O.B. branch. B.O.B., your bank of solutions.
Ready for some good living? South Seas Estates just off Bacardi Road. Lot 75 by 100, 96,000. Duplex lots 80 by 100, 130,000. Multifamily lots $120,000. Call 362-1214. South Seas Estates, and be sure to inquire about beachfront and marina view lots.
Mark the dates. June 26th through 30th. It's the Assemblies of God's 62nd Biennial General Council meeting in Nassau, Bahamas. The place, Evangelistic Temple, Collins Avenue. The time, 7:30 p.m. nightly. The theme, the Kingdom of God culture. The Assemblies of God, Bahamas, Turks and Caicos Island invites one and all associate churches, members, and friends to this grand event. Go out and hear from Reverend Dr. Patrick Paul, Reverend Dr. James Bradford, Bishop Jerry Seal, Reverend Dr. James Davis, Reverend Dr. Robert Lockhart, Reverend Dr. Vaughn Cash, and many others as they speak to the Kingdom of God culture. All services will be held at Evangelistic Temple. Mark the dates, June 26th through 30th, 7:30 p.m. nightly. The Assemblies of God's 62nd Conference, Nassau, Bahamas.
Kitty, I feel good. You know why I feel good? Because I truly believe that our Prime Minister, Mr. Minnis, is going to live by what he says. Congratulations again on maybe one of the best talk shows that we have in the country. Any country in the world that goes under because corrupt politicians. When a politician is corrupt, it causes his people to live hard. It causes taxes to go up.
Now it is time for this new government under Dr. Minnis to do what is necessary on behalf of all Bahamians.
Welcome back to Hard Copy on this Monday. And of course, we're happy that you can join us on the show. Paul Moss has just joined us today. We've got lots of things to talk about because, you know, everybody's now looking to how we can make some real money in this town and that the money can be spread around and that Bahamians can participate in this economy in a way that will really grow this economy and make things happen for many of us. 325-0235 or 6 is how you can call me here today on the show. 325-024-2043 and 325-025-2053. Good afternoon, Paul Moss. How you doing today?
Good. I'm well. How are you?
Man, I'm in good shape. The last time that I had you here, you know, our conversation was, boy, don't look like Minnis is talking enough, that kind of stuff. But I see here now that Minnis is making his presentation, and it doesn't sound bad at all. He's making some good pitches and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I wonder, though, you know, I like to give these things for the record because, you know, when people say things, I give them the full credit, say, well, Paul thought this or this one thought that. Mm-hmm. Now that you've seen some things in this after 5.5 weeks, almost 6 weeks, Wednesday will make 6 weeks that they've been in the governance of the Bahamas. Any impressions that you have now as you think what should be the push forward, that kind of thing, things that should have happened, not happening?
But clearly, it's good to see the Prime Minister coming out and speaking. I think that his silence really was not something that the nation needs, particularly at this time. This country is in crisis, and we need real leadership to show some kind of hope and enthusiasm to get ourselves out of it. But, you know, I'm not sure, though, that the government has articulated a way, or in the process of doing so, of how we're going to get out from where we're at right now.
And we're in a bad space right now.
That's right. And I think what they have been good at is that they've been good at announcing what were the measures taken by the previous administration and some of their spending habits and how they conducted themselves in the last term and in many instances in the lead up to the last general election. I think they've been good with that, you know, highlighting the egregious spending.
You
and
found some of it egregious as well?
Yes, some of it was egregious, I thought. And they have been good with that. And I give them credit for that because there's no doubt that if anyone believes that this is a singular episode, they are grossly mistaken.
No, it isn't.
This is something that has taken place. If you look back from 73 over the course of the life of this independent nation. And I say that simply because
you're talking about this kind of wild spending,
this kind of wild spending,
non-accountability, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it has taken place because this is the first administration that has taken the position that they're going to say publicly what took place in the previous administration.
Yeah, that's a good start.
No one else has done it.
It is a good start. And I'm glad that you made that observation because, you know, it is a good start. And I don't know if it's a sustainable start because sometimes fellas that may pull back the curtain and say, that's what I see, and report the first, then they really see that this is a bunch of stuff out. They say, close that curtain. We don't want to talk about it no
Close
more.
the curtain and see, this is what I'm getting at because it would be very nice for them to go back and to see, but it would mean then that they would have to speak on themselves. And that is not what they want to do. But I want you to just look at it this way. If the Bahamas has a debt of $7-point-something billion, and we know that when Lyndon Pendleton left after 25 years, the debt was hovering around $800-900 million. And then 25 years later, you are $6 billion plus in debt. It certainly means then that there were more people culpable, more administrations culpable to get us at this point.
Absolutely.
And if you look at it, over the last 25 years, the Free National Movement would have spent 15 years in government and the PLP 10. But we got $6 million, and I think it's right and fitting to divide it up amongst them. That they could share the blame.
Will it be equal share that $3 billion for Christie and $3 billion?
Well, I think so simply because the way I look at it, if you have been in office, if you've had the privilege to serve, you have to accept the responsibility for what we have today because, quite frankly, all of us in this room, no one has had that opportunity to serve. So you can't blame us for the debt that has been run up. But you can see very easily why the debt has been run up because of the kind of spending that they have done. $10 million to one consultant. I mean, what nonsense.
This is the thing across the way with the
KPMG.
KPMG with the health,
absolutely,
national health insurance.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's egregious to me.
Not only that, the timing of it. I mean, this happened just a couple of weeks before the elections.
Well, I mean,
this happened between 2016 and 2017.
Yeah. But it is clear that kind of thing is not should not be encouraged. It's not really good for the economy of the country. For you to just spend money, and that's money going outside the jurisdiction.
But Paul, what can happen in this kind of case now? I mean, this money, these are consultants. These are their fees. This is what they charge. This is what the government made the decision to pay. So this is fair. This is a fair exchange. Now, it may be questionable that, boy, all of that. Yeah, but you see, if this is what they charge and this is what is paid, and even if they didn't pay all of it, the government now present is obligated because governments are contiguous.
No
so if they are to pay it, who's to say that they will renege on it and say we ain't paying it because it just sounds too exorbitant, too
they
much.
Can't be that irresponsible. I mean,
they still got to pay it.
They still have to pay. I mean, if if you sign it, you're obligated to follow the terms and conditions of the contract, and I think that's what they will have to do. But the point is that what is alarming about it is that this is as I understand it, this is some outside contract, notwithstanding that KPMG may have a branch in the Bahamas. That's the outsiders who was given this advice. I think that for too long in this country, we have always neglected the domestic experts in this country to go outside to do something like that. And quite frankly, I'm not impressed with what they have advised because what they have advised either has not been followed or it's just an absolute failure.
Yeah, it was a flaw.
Absolutely.
So you're saying we have got people here locally who can do.
There's no question about that. No question about it.
I remember when they were dealing with some things, trying to find some attorneys or some what you call them now, actuaries for the whole thing with the Bahama thing. I remember they were saying that they had to find some people elsewhere, and there were a couple of local people here that could have sat on it, even in the fraternity of lawyers.
Of course.
Damien Gomez was suggested. And of course, they didn't do that. They got somebody else.
Yeah, because that was their
but
mantra.
What do you think is happening? Do you think that Minnis believes in Bahamians, I believe. He doesn't say that very often, like Christian then used to say it and didn't mean it. But I believe that Minnis is showing indication and signs that he is all about what can happen here locally, domestically, in our, way of doing things. Do you suppose that he'll take that same kind of play, though, and go outside to find things along the lines of what Bahamians perhaps can do, but have never really been given a chance or have not been gotten the notoriety for doing such things because he's never had an opportunity in this particular market?
Well, it is my hope. It is my hope, my sincere hope, that he takes that approach. But he's not articulated that approach.
Yeah.
He's been silent on it. And one would have to see whether or not he takes the approach you suggest, or he just gets on the same bicycle and ride, like how the previous administration did. I mean, all of them have done that. When I look back, for example, right, in the last term, prior to the PLP's term, the most egregious act, I thought, was the selling of BTC.
Yeah.
I mean, it's egregious because what now has taken place is that the company that they sold it to, Cable
Bahamas,
Cable and Wireless, who bought virtually a half, 50% of the company, has sold it for perhaps 3 times that much, not for the whole company, for the half that they bought.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And now you have the new owners who's willing to sell it for upward of $1 billion. This is just 50% of the entity. So that is just as egregious to me as what we are finding revealing here. But the issue is that the previous administration did not do an inquiry as to how that happened, did not do it. And it could very well be it's because they came from the same law firm. Now, Dr. Minnis, who is obviously not a part of that law firm, has a different approach. But his approach must be sustainable in the sense that he cannot just show or pull the curtain back halfway. He has to go the full gamut to show everything.
The people are expecting that?
Oh, yeah, we expect that. I mean, certainly I expect it.
Yeah. So Minnis has now been doing a number of things, though, Paul. You mentioned that he has been talking. Someone came to the show. Paul was there on the show, and he said, well, Minnis, we can't hear from him enough. We're not hearing. He needs to put his complexion on the country.
No.
And from the time that you said that on this show and on the show that Sunday, the last word, I've been seeing marked improvement, that he has been out there talking about some things, facing the music on the matter, and getting down to business. And this may have been in his own good time, but the thing is, that's what he's doing now. I saw where he went to look at Grand Bahama. He didn't go down to Grand, but he looked at the Grand Bahama thing and is trying now to see if he can come up with 3 unique destinations for the island of Grand Bahama itself, and bringing different parts of wonderful things that could happen in this economy to Grand Bahama, maritime and sports and wellness, a destination for starters for Lukaya. And then he's looking at in East Grand Bahama, ecotourism mecca, he says. And then in West Grand Bahama, Center for Culture with a planned dynamic cultural village. In other words, he's bringing all different aspects to the whole of Grand Bahama to bring about one big, sweet, solid economy if he can. Now, a lot of these things are not swashbuckling. I know you like to say that they're not swashbuckling ideas, but it seems to be ideas for sustainability in Grand Bahama that's really had no economy at all. What are your thoughts along those lines? Because, they started out talking about this whole financial center to be built on the island. That seemed to have been the whole thing that everything would have, coalesce around. But it seems now like he's looking at specific things in different pockets of Grand Bahama to bring about the kind of growth. What do you think?
Well, to me, quite honestly, I'm not impressed with those ideas. I heard him give a speech on it. I mean, I said, wow, who wrote that for him? Because it was not
Maybe you're too critical, Paul. Maybe you're too critical.
I'm not critical. I just think that when you look, listen, having been in this country all these years, having looked at Grand Bahama that has underperformed my whole life, underperformed, you have to have more sustainable ideas that are practical, that could work. And I believe that those ideas come from the people who live in Grand Bahama, not from people sitting around writing a speech telling him that you should have ecotourism in East Grand Bahama. Come on.
You need to hear from people on the ground.
You need the people
well,
on the
I
ground.
said at the beginning of the
You
show
need the
today
people
that
on the ground.
people need to get involved and help. The best way that they can help to bring about the change around that they would like to see is to create and contribute ideas to the whole pool of thought that Menace is now a part of. Menace seems to want to get some things done, and this is a start. He's given us a start. Maritime sports and wellness and
I
Lukaya.
mean, all that sounds good, but
Yeah.
what does it really mean? Practically, how do
Well,
you get
I
started
suppose
with
he's
it?
going to put some flesh on the bone and say this is what he hopes to have done in the area of maritime affairs and so forth. I could only say this is what I'm believing. But you're right. I see what you're saying, that you need to articulate just how much and what's the timetable, what are the things, what are the ingredients for this soup that you're cooking now?
Right. Because quite frankly, you spoke about, see, we look at the speech from the throne to set out what the framework is for the 5 years that you put out, right? And this was not in the speech from the throne.
No, it wasn't.
So it tells me that you are making this thing up as you go. Because if you could take the time to write
But Paul,
in the speech from the
everything
throne,
was in the speech from the throne, though.
but hear me out now. I agree. Everything cannot be in the speech from the throne. But at least the main thing of financial services being a big part of Freeport or Grand Bahama, you ought to be able to be talking about that first. Not talking about these things, but coming up along your lines, because the things you're talking about sounds very high in the, pie in the sky type thing, maritime, ecotourism. Man, come on. We heard that before. The reality is it has not worked. It's not happened. And so you have to allow the practical things, and you can only get the ideas to run this country from the people on the ground. I'm telling you.
That I get. But let me ask you this now. I get that, Paul, and you're not wrong, because we've been calling for them to get more involved. What is it that you would see that can actually do some things in the immediate short term to kind of bolster, get things going? And then, of course, have some other things that are going to be able to act as a kind of support to branch off into other areas. Talk to me about those things, because I believe that Grand Bahama has great potential. But Paul, my idea of Grand Bahama is more industrialized, an industrialized place, industry, those kinds of things. I keep thinking that it got to be some places in the world that want to assemble some washing machines or some car parts in the Bahamas. I mean, come on.
See, that is the idea.
That's what I'm thinking. But I could be way off, because I don't know.
You're dead right with it. You're dead right with it, because they got that big port out there that could be used to bring parts in, to have the people to assemble those things, and the big port out there to ship it out from, to different jurisdictions where it has to go. But you have to encompass those ideas, because that is what the legislation speaks to. But I determine how serious they are based on the laws that they allow the Grand Bahama Port Authority
to be down in Grand Bahama,
to get away with. They've broken every single law of that trust agreement called Hawkesbury Creek Agreement. They've done it, but they've been rewarded. They've been the extension of time. And these are people who control the gateway to the city. They're very high costs when you come to the seaport and when you come to the airport. So if you want to make things right, you have to reduce those costs, so allow people to come in to do commerce, and the license fees that they charge. I mean, think about it. You are essentially handicapping yourself by allowing a private entity to reap the benefits that should be reaped by us.
And that's all around. That's all around. That's even on business licenses and stuff like that, through Chamber of Commerce. These different businesses that people are trying to set up. So all around, yeah. But you see, the trouble is we seem to be stuck because of the extensions of the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement, the people signing and giving them an extension on how long this thing is going to last and all that. And we seem to not be able to wiggle out of that. And we don't perhaps want to wiggle out of it. All I know is this, that more things need to happen in Grand Bahama. And I'm not talking about things from a touristic point of view, because that has failed us. They try to build a hotel in the middle of the road, or try to bring some waterway, water sports kind of thing in the middle of where the old Princess, was it Princess? Where they had this thing. It didn't work. They tried this international bazaar thing from Pinland time. This international bazaar of having all the world come, a cornucopia of all kinds of things that are happening, but from Thailand, Malaysia. And, it seemed to be a good idea for the time. And the marketing of it was extremely hard, because people got a little taste of the different parts of the world right on in Freeport, Grand Bahama. I don't know what that was all about, but that failed. And those places are now basically vacant, abandoned, and people are kind of like
living in some of these places now. The place has gone right down. I'm saying, how do we put a boost in the arm of Grand Bahama in the main so that it can come back to life, if I can put it that way?
From a government point of view, it has to be the policies that they implement. And the only thing that the government can do is, when it comes to those kinds of policies, is reduce your policy with respect to taxation so that you can incentivize people to actually get into business or have the ease of doing business in those areas. That's the first thing they have to look at. But when you have the very high cost of utilities in terms of the electrical costs, what is in all of Grand Bahama, you're going to have a serious prohibition against any kind of economic activity. And so you have to incentivize that as well. You just have to go all out. You have to go for broke, essentially, to try to jumpstart the economy to get the people back to work. If you don't do that, you're going to be right here talking about ecotourism in the East, and you're talking about
They sound good, sound like nice big words of
fairy type of thing, and not
flowery
nothing
words
that's on the ground to show you. And see, people are very wary now. They know that when you come around them in your suits and your hat up and your shovel, they don't believe it because it's all a flam. And now when you're talking about these things,
the Ginn property and all that,
it's a flam. It's a flam. You have to allow the Bahamian people, particularly those people in Grand Bahama, to have the opportunities to say what it is that they want in the islands, and this is across the archipelago. You can't have people sitting down here in Nassau around, driving around, making speeches on these things that they would want to do for the place. When in fact, everything that you've suggested has been tried and failed, and you're not really trying to motivate them, to inspire them, and this is what you have.
Dry Bread wrote a song one time ago, say, "What you gonna do with Montague?" We need a song like that now that says, not that we need a song.
Well, not what they did with Montague. You don't need that.
No. But I'm saying, what you gonna do with Grand Bahama? I mean, from the context, from the point of view that something needs to happen. Do you suppose that the whole economy of Grand Bahama is being strangled and choked to death because of the policies and the attitude of the port versus the government of the Bahamas?
No question about it.
And do you suppose that is that the only way that we can get away? What is the only way that we can get away, I suppose, is my question.
See,
how you can get away and get rid of this stranglehold that's happening on Grand Bahama?
Well, in my view, and in the view of many people, that the Grand Bahama Port Authority has breached the agreement many times over. Many times over.
But there's no penalty.
They've divested themselves of the utilities of the port.
That's right.
Which is a part of the agreement that it should not have happened because it should have been for the benefit of the licensees. That's not the case anymore. So it's very easy for them to come out of the agreement because that agreement continues to be the stranglehold. And then one never knows what is agreed with them. For example, those other parts outside the city of Freeport continue to suffer. And you have to ask yourself, well, why is that? If there are high costs and fees down at the Freeport airport, and you know that's controlled by private people, why doesn't the government allow West End or some other part of Grand Bahama to have these kind of entities? And it could very well be that they have signed these agreements prohibiting them from being able to get into it. Because right now, this Nassau Port Authority, Nassau Port that they have here, you can't have no more ports around the place, You can't. They have exclusivity. And in fact, they're trying to control now other ports in Freeport, in Abaco and Exuma, all these other places that they've applied to manage.
This is in perpetuity, or this is what is this for? This how long does this is indefinite? I mean, how long do they have?
But you tell me. They signed a 25-year exclusive contract. Which is, I guess, about to come due in the next 15 years or so. But when you look at the people who are the shareholders, you ask yourself whether or not that's ever going to be ended. It's not going to be ended. It's just going to be like the Port Authority. They always extended and extended and extended. I saw where they're asking for 14 acres of land, even more land, which is essentially land belonging to the Bahamian people that they're going to get a private entity getting for free, notwithstanding the government has 50% of it, but the government has 7.5% of the Port Authority do. But where's that? They don't even know.
So where are the taxes for those things that they're supposed to
this is my point. So the point is that they will extend it. These kinds of monopolistic controls that we have in the country are the stranglehold around the entrepreneurial and free society type of economics that we need to have. It's a stranglehold around our necks.
So the bottom line is what you're saying is that there's really no way out unless we make some quick adjustments, get tough, and decide that we're going to tackle the Grand Bahama Port Authority in every way where there's deficiency for the people of Grand Bahama.
That's correct. That's correct. And not only that, the Bahamian people now have to begin to agitate to make sure that these things don't continue. I mean, when you could
Bahamian
find
people are not agitating
that,
for
that
that's
the
just it.
government would just, in the case of BTC, source people from the outside to purchase it.
Yeah.
I mean, it does the country no good. And then on the inside, get a certain group of families who have always benefited to continue to benefit. It doesn't do the country good. And so
perpetrating fraud.
You need to, the Bahamian people need to get up, stand up, educate themselves on these issues, and demand that their children have an equal stake in this country.
Yeah, but that's the whole idea and the ideal. And I'm hoping that through shows like this, we can motivate people to understand that they've had enough and they shouldn't really be taking it anymore. And as a result of that, Paul, it is like pulling teeth. The truth be told, a lot of our Bahamians around this country have taken a backseat to the future of the Bahamas. They've taken a backseat. Their whole thing is that, well, I want to get involved. I don't. And they're looking at small things that will perhaps mash them up in their own way of thinking, and they don't want to get involved. So you're not getting the confluence of ideas coming from the body public to try to shape the way that government is governing this country. And that's our fault as a people. I've been trying to get people to participate, even with guests and whatnot, to come to the show to talk about. You've got a kind of dropout, people who are just reluctant to. They don't want to ruffle any feathers. They don't come, the economists, those people, they don't want to talk about these things because the reality is one where, or the realities are that, this is not a good deal that we have all around. And so people are not saying anything much to even motivate others to get involved and say, look, and start screaming, we need to do better. Grand Bahama is a prime example. I mean, this place got so much potential. The infrastructure is there. This infrastructure has been there for a time now. Everything is happening for Grand Bahama as far as the roadways, the waterways, all of those things. It's a beautiful place to make something happen. But no one seemed to have come up with the kind of ideas to bring about the kind of change to bring Grand Bahama back to boom days. It is not happening, Paul. And you got to be concerned about that, because what is happening too is that people are filtering in from Grand Bahama into Bimini, into Nassau, into Abaco, into Exuma, so forth and so on. And it is not helping that place to grow. And in a quick second too, you may see those of the Port Authority who's watching all of this decide that they're going to do some other things to try to even get more than what they have, because they're going to have to shoulder the responsibility of keeping it alive outside of the Bahamian people's intervention and the government coming in there to do some things that can make a difference on that island.
Well, I want you to believe that if the port suggests that they want to have 8 Mile Rock or West End, they will get it. They would get it simply because our administrations over the years, our government over the years has been very lazy. Yeah. I continue to say that they have been lazy because all they want to do is sit back and allow others to do hard work.
We have to develop this country. We have to do it.
Well, that's what we've been accustomed to doing, just sitting back and allow it to happen, when the reality is that we need someone who is going to go out there, go into the world, and bring the opportunities here. I can tell you that you cannot sit in this jurisdiction and believe that something's going to happen for you unless you don't go out there and get it.
Paul, according to Dr. Hubert Minnis, who's the Prime Minister of the Bahamas, he says, reviving Grand Bahama's economy is pivotal to achieving our national development objectives. My administration will also roll out a workable plan in tourism in cooperation with key stakeholders to rebuild brand identity and to incentivize investments in Grand Bahama. It's all fluff talk, is not specifics. He has not been able to say.
That's what technocrats do.
Yeah, but this here embodies the kind of push to, we want to do this, but you got to put legs on it so people can see exactly what succinctly are you going to
what you're going to do, how you're going to make it happen. But even, if you just look at it and read it, but recognized brands, that is our problem.
We're too brandy. We always want to.
We want a brand like that's going to listen. There are places I've gone to in this world, right? I've stayed in hotels where I don't know the brand because the brand may be indigenous to that particular country or in that city, and that's what you want. You don't want to have, particularly in those places, because some brands are not going to take their brand to put on something that does not reflect what they believe to be it.
Exactly.
Hence, that's why we get that big thing out there called Bahama or all these high towers and stuff like that, which is totally out of character, even for cable beaches, out of character. We need to encourage those people in Grand Bahama to actually own their own brand, and you need to assist them. The government needs to assist them with the resources to construct, reconstruct, to develop, and allow them to have some kind of aid and help to bring those people in to assist the growth of Grand Bahama. But it has to be the people. It cannot be you making these speeches that have been written for you, which is just airy-fairy rhetoric, and people have no confidence in.
Well, I hope that this is more than airy-fairy and just up in the air and that kind of thing.
When you read it, you could deduce that as airy-fairy.
Yeah, this here, because it doesn't give us succinctly the specifics of any particular project in particular, only that the ideas of West Grand Bahama will be a center for cultural with planned dynamic cultural village, and then East Grand Bahama is going to be ecotourism, a mecca of ecotourism. Then the Lukaya is looking at maritime sports and wellness. And I can see one time ago, Grand Bahama used to be a place they used to call it, this is a long time ago, Paul, sports superstars, sporting superstars. All of Fred Williamson, them, and all these Jim Brown, all these big football players would have come. Yeah, oh yeah, this was a big thing. They used to have Vintage Speed Week and things like that because they have the roadways and all. See, these kinds of things can come back. There can be a resurgence. But the kind of marketing that I saw Danny Johnson and those were doing here to get the IAAF championships and the FIFA and all that, you got to think on that level. And it got to be a place where you can bring real development for sports and real entertainment, high class, that the world wants to be a part of. That can happen. And we've seen it happen here on New Providence with FIFA and with the IAAF, yeah. And other things that we've seen with the other games that we've had. And so I'm saying it is not a far-fetched dream, but you've got to put legs on some of these things. So I like that idea about sports and wellness because, this whole place was always considered a place of wellness. Our waters and all that kind of stuff, therapeutic, and, this is where people came to.
Steve, let's examine that, right? But let's examine it. Sports and wellness, all right? This is the administration that came out of the bat. First thing they did was borrow $722 million, right? Which means that they have no resources to do what I believe sports and wellness would require. Because it seems to me that what you're talking about is to try to get some people from around the globe who have specialities in sports medicine to come and to set up practice here, to have it perhaps near the waterway or near the beaches. And that's something that you have to actually go out there and do, bring it from the outside. The reality is that when you look at the economy of the country, and if you look at the stagnation called the Grand Bahama Port Authority, where do you get that idea? Where's it going to go? I don't think that they're very serious with it. I just think that people try to come up with ideas and they just say these things because it sounds good on paper. But when you really examine it,
it's not a workable thing.
How does it work?
It's not practical.
How does it work when you have difficulty even in your own healthcare system to upgrade it for your own citizens? You're going to say now that this is going to happen? Well, it might very well happen if they decide to turn our Lukaya into some hospital and invite these people to come in rent-free to set up their practice and to do those things. But the reality is that he has not even articulated that.
That's a good idea, what you just said just now. That's a good idea.
Well, it is a good idea, but the point is that we have all of these buildings around here that they could actually do some things with because other countries actually do it. They give you incentive to come in, but when you come in, you got to come in to do certain things that benefit the country. But we're not thinking along those lines. I think that even though we're 36 days in, or 6 weeks Wednesday, to me, I have not heard the vision. I've not seen it, not read it, not heard it. And that is what is required now so that people can know what they could do in this country and this economy.
You think people are waiting on that when you look at it from a point of view of local business persons? You think that they're waiting to see how they can see if they should try with an investment here and spend their $2 on this and see if they can point the bow of their boat, so to speak, in a direction where a windfall may be coming? In other words, are they waiting on something to be so clearly articulated by the government of the Bahamas that they're holding back on?
But what they're waiting on is for the other shoe to drop. Here now is an administration who has been telling us how dire the situation is, how bad it is, showing us the wasteful spending of their predecessor, right? And now everyone knows that what is going to have to happen is that more revenue has to come in. And what does the government do? They don't go out there and open up a business. They decide we're going to tax you all who are in business. And so the people are waiting,
people can't take no more taxes.
But I can assure you, if they can't take it, they'll be made to take it. Because what we know
that
is
will also bring depression in the economy.
Absolutely. What you think has been depressing this economy? The economy can't go. You keep taxing the very people who you need to bring it out of the depression.
And all around that hurts. Yeah, all around
that's what they do. And I'm telling you that they're going to raise that VAT. That VAT is going to be raised.
Man, stop it.
I'm going to tell you. Let me show you why.
You think the value-added tax is going to be raised?
There's no question about it.
The raise to 10%? Raise to 15%?
They will round it up to 10 incrementally, and they'll see how that goes for a couple of years. And they'll probably ride it out until the election. And immediately after, no matter who wins, that's what they'll want to do. The point is that this is just the same playbook.
Found a new money stream.
It's a playbook. You squeeze these people. And think about it now. I mean, when you think about the thousands, or should I say, the millions of transactions done daily in banks around this country, millions, right? And they're charging that 7.5% or 8% on every transaction. Imagine they put it to 10.
Yeah. But what is the government getting on it? 3%? The last time I checked, for monies that are going out the country on these whole things like from financial services sector, the financial...
No, the only way they could get anything on it is if the money that's being sent out of the country is Bahamian dollars converted into US dollars. But if you have persons who have their US dollars, they're not going to get anything out of that because it came in as US and it's going out as US.
So
they will tax those people too. People who send remittances to Jamaica and Haiti and stuff like that, all of it go. They're going to get taxed. They're going to tax that in a real way because they're trying to find ways in which to bring down the deficit and to eventually pay down on the debt. But they are not talking about cost-cutting activities that will constrain them, because if this government or this administration was serious, one of the very first bills that they would pass after doing that resolution to borrow more money is a fiscal responsibility bill.
Well, the last government didn't
to constrain their own. But that's what I'm saying. It's the same playbook.
Yeah, but they must do it. I mean, you can't expect us to swallow that. Look at what these guys with all this wastage. I mean, the headlines were all over the place. Wastage, massive wastage, and then you don't pass a fiscal responsibility act to the point where we gonna reel it and even all the players who we're doing business with, IMF, IDB, and all them. They will see that as that's a good improvement. That means now some things may happen. There's been no kind of responsible move so far to say this is what we're going to do, and that will impress the outsiders who've been lending us money.
Well, I don't anticipate that they'll pass it either. I don't. I believe that the playbook has always been, and you could actually predict it because we did it on the show or maybe the Sunday show, that they will come in and borrow $500,000.
Yes, we did.
They would spend that. They bet it $200 million more. But that's the playbook. The playbook is now you come inside there, you tell us how bad the thing is, you need to borrow money. They've done that.
So the thing is, it's our time to borrow money now.
It's their time to borrow money. Because
next person's time to borrow money now.
And what would have been very good and give this administration a good chance is to have come in and say, listen, we have to borrow $400 million to pay off debt, because we will do that. And we're going to hold the line on this $300+ billion that we want to borrow to play with. We're going to hold the line. We're going to find wastage. I believe this, that if we could cut out the corruption that's in government, we would have a surplus in our budget, because the corruption is the wastage.
Yeah.
It is the wastage. And that is what you look at.
No
And
question.
they have to
about it.
be able to look at every ministry, cut back by 25%. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I was at the prison, and the prison has, they used to make bread at the prison.
Mhm.
They don't make bread anymore. They get it from Purity.
They buying bread. Man.
Yeah, like $3 million a year. So, I mean, what is that about?
Yeah. Well, you know what that's
But
all
I know
about.
it's about.
You know who owns Purity.
This is my point. My point is this. How could you say that you're going to rent buildings from people who are constructing buildings for you to rent from?
Yeah.
I mean, it's most incredible.
Yeah.
And this is why we have the wastage, and this is why they want to continue to tax, but they're not going to cut back on their spending because they know that if they give the contract to someone for rent a building, that somewhere along the line it's going to come back. Some of it's going to come back to them for either their political party as a whole or their personal campaign.
Sounds like we need to really clean house, uproot everything, and just start afresh.
And this is why I say
we
pulling
need-
back the curtain halfway is not going to be good enough.
Yeah. We're talking with Paul Moss this evening, a lot of it on the economic end, because we got to find ways to grow this country. So we're looking from a positive point of view, while a lot of it may be something that will hit you in the face and say, you know, this is what we've got to do. We've got to talk the stark reality of things. And you can get ahead and get where you want to be unless you face the issues that are right now before us. Yes, there's wastage. Yes, there's even corruption somewhere in there. What are we planning on doing about that to make sure that going forward, it'll be a better, I suppose, easy sailing, so to speak, meaning that we're going to definitely get rid of the corruption, we're going to definitely get rid of this wastage, and we're going to find where these things are happening. How do we deal with those kinds of things? We're talking today, 325-0235 or 6. Of course, another thing is that we're going to turn our attention later on to this whole bit about what was not mentioned in the speech from the throne, to the point where it is now on the lips of every economist and all those persons who are in the financial services sector, and that is this whole reform as far as energy reform is concerned. Nothing along the lines that is now generating the kind of interest, except to say that those who are advocating that we need to have some kind of reform in our supply, in our energy sector, are now making noise that this is what we really need more than anything else, because this is where all the money is going. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Hard Copy, how you doing? We're taking some calls on the line this afternoon. Hard Copy, how are you? Okay, I don't hear you. Hard Copy, how are you?
Mr. McKinney, how are you doing this evening?
Very good, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Paul Moss. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm well, thanks.
And Mr. McKinney, when you're talking about wastage and stuff like that, you need to have that show on Facebook so people could really express how they feel. Really express how they feel.
Yeah, not on radio. How about so they could really carry on and
So I could really say what I want to say and but not be politically correct.
I understand you.
But on the wastage and the corruption, I was having this conversation today. Why is it that we still exchange monies at government agencies? Why isn't there any swipe cards where you, for example, I'm going to pay for my car to get registered and licensed. Why can't I just give my bank card? They swipe the card, and the money is automatically transferred to the government's account instead of money's being exchanged, and then at the end of the year we have millions and millions of dollars missing. I mean, like we're in the 21st century and we're still doing things so backwards, and it opens the door for corruption and people being dishonest. You know, and I cannot fathom why are we still using a paper. We need to have like a paperless system where you just use your cards when you want to, like I say, make payments. Some people don't have bank accounts. I understand that. If that's the case, you have a government agency where you just have you go to that government agency and you pay and you get a money order or a cashier's check, and you go and you pay whatever government entity you need to be paid. Therefore, there's no money exchanging hands, and therefore no money will be missing. Now, I'm calling from Freeport because you guys touched on Freeport as well.
Yeah.
Industry, like you said, Grand Bahama is the closest island or closest. This is the gateway to the Caribbean, more or less. You have so many factories in the United States, you know, that pay their workers exorbitant amounts. Why can't we attract a few industries and factories and bring them here to Grand Bahama. Now, yes, you guys just spoke about the high cost of electricity and whatnot. We were also talking about renewable energy.
Yeah.
We have sunshine. I mean, we have sunshine all year round. Why hasn't anybody say, hey, factories, you can come here. We can invest with the solar panels and whatnot. We can show you how this will cut your costs. The rates that you pay the people in the United States are far less than what you'd be paying in the Bahamas. One factory employ like up to 600 or 700 persons.
Yeah.
All year round. Why hasn't the government looked at that? Grand Bahama doesn't have that much history per se as like say in Eleuthera, where you can take people to Eleuthera and say, hey, this is where the Lutheran adventures in this and this and this and this.
Right.
Grand Bahama was just, and we don't have that history to attract, like you said, the Mecca and West End and all of this and that. We need to get away from that, try and get to the factories, and that's how I feel Grand Bahama will get back on board.
Yeah. You think it's good ideas, and I appreciate it, because we've got to get the conversation going. And you've been talking to colleagues on Grand Bahama. How are they feeling about what is being enunciated and laid out for them at this time? Is this something that, as Paul said, that they've perhaps heard before and they don't seem to be all enthusiastic?
Well, like Mr. Moss said, you've heard that same song and dance before. We need to, don't just say, okay, I want everybody to be working. Tell me how. Tell me exactly what step A, step B, this is what we're going to do to get these initiatives going. And therefore, and we're going to make this into reality. Just don't give me the pretty speeches and stuff like that. Another thing is, we want to promote entrepreneurship and stuff like that. How can you do that if, for example, Mr. Steve McKinney, want to open up a radio station, but Mr. McKinney has 4 radio stations?
Yeah.
How
this is a serious thing.
Prime example, like we were talking, I called the show a few months back and were complaining about a taxi, one person owning 5 taxis, 6 taxi plates. You have this individual right now, Mr. Diagala was just talking about, you have 5 shops in an airport. So how are we, as how the other?
How do you spur on the economy? How do you encourage growth?
Hey, I have everything. You have it all. We really need to address that. It's been going on for too long, and only we have a few of the select individuals that have it all. And I mean, when I say all, I mean all.
You mean all, yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It really needs to be addressed.
Well, listen, my brother, I appreciate your call. You hang in there, and you got to, drum up interest. Let's get these people talking. Let's get them kind of like showing the leadership of this country what it is that they really want and how they may have some ideas to get some of the things that they really want. We have no capital in this town. I mean, people are needing to go find monies just to go do just a little small hot dog stand. You're talking. We've got to find ways and means. I don't know how that's going to happen, but I was believing that Minister is on the right track by at least coming up with some kind of starter program to get Grand Bahama going. Do you believe that these programs that he talked about to get Grand Bahama going is worthy?
Yes, I do, but is it sustainable?
Yeah, that's key.
That is the question, because hey, I'm going to open up a hot dog stand, but nobody has money to buy the hot dogs. And we need to address. There's so many underlying issues we need to address. Bank interest rates. Like you said, the cost of living. The government doesn't want to take over from the Port Authority because, I mean, it's like a double-edged sword. Our garbage is picked up on time. The roads, like you said, the roads are clean and everything. The government would have to take on that responsibility.
And people would probably say, no, because they know there's going to be delinquency in these areas.
Exactly. So like I said, there's a double-edged sword, and then We have other underlying issues in Grand Bahama that needs to be addressed before, you come with a big super duper idea, because you still have to bring the jobs so people can support the businesses.
I appreciate your call.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Paul. You heard the gentleman.
Yes.
A lot of what he said makes complete sense.
It makes
we seem
sense.
to be putting the cart before the horse or the conversation.
Because we always talk about you use what you have, what you have in your hand, and we know that in Freeport in particular, there's this duty-free zone that they have been supposed to really develop and get those kind of industries set up. But like I said before, you can't sit here and believe that it's going to come miraculously. You have to go out into the world and speak to those people. There are many countries that are interested in manufacturing. One of the things that we do have is we have a proximity that no one else could replicate to the greatest economy in the history of this world, and that is called the United States. You can't get any better than us. We're right here. And I remember during some earlier years, I was speaking to a client, and this client, because of the Caribbean Basin Initiative, which I think has a few more years left. It may be extended, I'm not sure. But if things are developed inside Caribbean nations, they could have accessed the United States in a duty-free way. And so you had, in one instance, a country out of South America speaking to do something in the Bahamas, to have it completed in the Bahamas and then shipped through that initiative to the United States, because South America doesn't have that luxury. We have it. These are things that we have. And because of our proximity, we ought to utilize it. And because of the shipping lanes that we do have, the shipping port, the free port, that is your target. That's what you do. Someone has to go out there and make it happen. I know that the minister with responsibility is Brent Simonet. I believe that we need energetic people. And I'm not knocking him. I'm just saying that we need young people who understand what the mantra is, to go out there and make it happen. 35-year-olds, go out there and make it happen. That's what will recover this country, because the old thinking is just simply not going to work. It's not working. And when you hear that prophecy, when Dr. Mahesh speak about the old weapons are not going to be able to hold the country anymore, he may be very well speaking about these kinds of ideas. Those ideas are not going to work. You have to go out there and try something different. It's good if you try something different and ancillary, they come on board. But it can't be that they're the mainstay. We tried that.
Yeah, understood. Hard copy, how you doing? Welcome.
Hello, Mr. McKinney, and to your guest.
Thank you. 325-023546. I'm listening, sir.
Mr. McKinney, we have a lot of building. We've gone backwards. At least now how we get it back on the burner, on the movement. What we need to face some truth. One is, you realize that this is the ending of another month, government paying out its pension. Do we know as Bahamians how much people outside other than Bahamians is being paid pension? We have foreign companies coming here. Do we know how many companies coming here and card out money every day by it? I don't know what. Dre loads of money, just keep going. So what I'm saying is, if we don't have the capacity to know what is in our borders, know how much money is coming in, how much is going out, all we're doing is snatching what we could get, and we don't give a, who about it. Another thing we need to address, the love of brotherhood and what's not, what have we. We need to address that seriously. Because
The what? The love?
And to North with that, we have to be our brother's keeper. We had to stop that black crab syndrome. This is what is killing us. So we have things, anybody come in this country can side with Bahamians, put some money in his pocket, and we'll destroy it. That's our problem. So until we be a people to a certain extent and understand the country come first and stop worrying about only what I could get, we're not going to be any better. I hope we have such rich history. It look like the foreigners see this more than us. So when they come here, when they look, they got all of this. They don't know what they got. Let's take it from them. That's what it's going. That's what is happening to us. MPs, they showed that. That's how they want it. So I hope other Bahamians don't want it like that. We need to get this country back so the younger generation or the younger people coming up, they could have an equal playing field where everybody get their share.
Yeah, we've been talking about that for quite some time, and people have been saying this is what we want. But you know, I don't believe enough Bahamians are getting involved in the actual running of government, you know, per se. When you're talking about running government, having their input to put there, because it's very important that people know how, that leaders of this country know how people are thinking. And you're not going to get anywhere if everyone just lays back and they have not even put in their mindset, for instance, Paul, that we are in a different time. You just said it, you know. You said something that people take for granted and say, no, we could be barking up the wrong tree because we could be going in an area that is now a dead end. It's a closed area. No one is welcome in that area now because we need to have new things, new dynamic things to spur us on, to take us into a new direction. And you're not going to get that from the same old. You're going to get that from new people with fresh ideas. You see the kid who just came back from the UK the other day and has been caught up in all this thing about $400,000 and all this kind of money he's been making and all that. Well, you're not going to grow if, in fact, your idea is to keep it the same old way. Plus, on top of that, this old money that's been going behind to old money from the same old friends, family, lovers group. How are you going to break out of the shell and do new things? It's not going to happen. Now, I'm not saying you mustn't be prudent and financial savvy, and you mustn't have the responsibility. You must account for what you're doing, yes. But at the same time, you've got to kind of like bring about the idea among the Bahamian people, among those who are resident in the Bahamas, that we want to have a better way of doing things, and we want to have responsible people in these positions to do it, and we want to have creative people who can get it done. Otherwise, we're joking. You know, I mean, you got to break out and get some new things done.
Got to be brand new, man. It just cannot be. We have tried this before. We've known, and I'm not saying this, that we abandon tourism. Absolutely not. I think that we have not even begun to scratch the surface on tourism.
I believe that,
because we are still on about having these big, monstrous hotels.
When people want to come and have a little small cottage to live in. And
when people want to live in Bain and Grantstown and in Camp Road, you have to involve the whole population in tourism. We used to be that way before. We've gone away from that, where we have allowed outsiders to take the product and demand what it should be. The product belongs to us, and it is the Bahamian people and the way of life of the Bahamians, and you have to focus on that. But I believe that those are done simultaneously, but certainly not as the lead for what is required now today. The Bahamas is in crisis. It's a nation that has not grown economically for, call it 10 years. And the point is that it's not going to grow if you continue to do the same thing. So here we have now, we have given Bahama the same $4 million that we have given Kersner to advertise their destination. That's their destination. It's not going to be come to the Bahamas. It's come to Atlantis.
In that case,
or come to Bahama.
Yeah.
And so the Bahamian people are subsidizing
So we've not learned from it.
We have not learned from that. And so we have to go there. And I'm telling you that the opportunity that exists right there in Grand Bahama, many countries who are doing things around the world who would want to have access to a market like that $13 trillion market called the United States. The Bahamas is its closest neighbor outside of Canada and Mexico. We have to capitalize on it. And people around
Do we
the
know
world,
how to?
Well, I'm saying that it is obvious to me that we do not, or we're not thinking about it. Hopefully they begin to think about it, to see how they could send envoys around the globe to go into those countries where they have these manufacturing, or to speak to those head offices, wherever they may be in Europe or in the United States, to consider the Bahamas, consider the proximity, consider the cost, reduced cost in terms of shipping, even on raw materials, because guess what? China is completely finished with raw materials. They are now scoring all over the world. That's why they're here in the Bahamas, looking for raw materials to ship back to China to compete and to do all these factories that they're doing.
And they're getting your conch shell.
And well, that's one of the raw materials that they're getting. We do not even know what else they're getting because so much things that we just think of no value.
They're tapping into the pine trees and
they get it. You see what I'm saying? So that's what we need to do. I believe that if there's a real vision, the vision would articulate that here's what the Bahamas must be, that we have to go after these things that we neglected to do in times past, and let's send envoys to get those done.
I like that idea. We're going to talk more about that. Hard copy, how are you?
How you doing, Steve?
Very good.
Mr. Moss, how are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you.
Big brother, Sir Lyndon and his generation had the plan. And most of the plan that were executed, that he had, was executed by his people. You see, it was the people of the country that reposed confidence in Sir Lyndon. Sir Lyndon, in return, reposed the confidence in each individual to go out there. Now, how could the university graduates, you know, who has the master's and doctor's degree, have intelligent conversation when it comes to energy with countries like America, who has General Electric in there, right? We have intelligent Bahamians who want to have real conversations on energy and use companies like General Electric, like, for example, PEC. We have a serious problem with these generators every summer. When we know there is no company on the face of the earth that could build better turbine engines than General Electric. If we're going to do business with America, let's do business.
I hear what you're saying, Ames. I think it makes sense up to that point. If we can do business, let's be sober and serious about it.
Yes.
And it's a very, very good point. There's no sense in hanging out with the chickens if you could be flying with the eagles, is what he's saying.
Right.
And we've got to find ways and means. And he's right too. There's something that's reposed into young people who have ideas. They're innovative. They will take chances. They will explore. They will investigate. They will do that. They got the energy.
Yeah, they got the energy, and they have had the opportunity to explore with the advent of this thing called the internet.
Yeah,
and they have had it. So they explored it. They spend more time there because they may have more free time to spend it, and therefore their ideas are quite different. But there's a dynamic that's going on in the world. The Bahamas has to be a part of it and cannot get left behind because we are being left behind. I look at financial services as an example. You have the factor that's going on now inside the United States. And the Bahamas we're still on the border. It's still the third border. We have proximity. We should dominate financial services in the United States. That should be our mantra. We just dominate it. We have the market. It's right there. We should not allow others from around the globe to have more of a stake in the industry, in that market, simply because we are too afraid of the boogeyman. The reality is, the factor levels the playing field for everybody.
Yeah.
And so because we have proximity, we should be to jump on it and have a one-up because of our proximity.
This whole thing, apart from the financial services sector, and that's where the government seems to be pointing a lot of their hopes and looking that that can be shored up. And Brent is in charge of it. Of course, that can be shored up and more things can happen here. More investors can come our way looking. We're still looking at that foreign direct investment kind of thing to boost the country, to pull us up to a level that we are expecting that we can grow the economy and get it beyond 3%, 4%, 5% if we could. But one of the things that's a big setback, Paul Moss, continues to be this problem of renewable energy, this problem of electricity. Energy is just too high.
Yes.
We got to find a way. I mean, we pay so much money for electricity in this particular area of radio and television, that kind of stuff. And, the truth be told, the cost of doing business because of electricity, because we have not found the right means and mechanisms to make sure that we can reduce this thing for good. It is a serious thing if you're getting into business.
It is very
and that's one of the reasons why we've got to discuss that. I watch everybody talking about you need to have this energy reform. It got to happen because we're going to die on the vine because of the fact that it's just too expensive. What are your thoughts? I mean, we've already discussed all the renewable energy, it's turbo, this, the next thing. It's just talk. We talk about wind, we talk about solar. It's just talk. I mean, what are we going to do really from a national policy point of view? Because, it was missing from the expressions in the speech from the throne. And even though whilst one or two persons may have mentioned something in the House during the debate, we really got to sit down and put together a plan and then go for it.
I absolutely agree. And it is beyond me, beyond belief. It is incredulous to even be at this stage and there's no plan articulated as to how it's going to happen with markers set. In other words, we should be 10% by next year or whatever the case. No markers are set. And the reality is this. One of the studies I wish that someone would do, hopefully University of the Bahamas can do it, find out how many businesses have gone under as a result of BEC or whatever they call that thing.
That's a big assignment. That's a big assignment.
No, it's
it's needed.
It is
When I
needed
say it's a big
because
assignment, I mean it needs to be done.
it needs to be done because there are many who simply listen, if one supplier decides that, well, we can't extend you credit anymore, you can still have a go. But when BEC decides that, well, we can't extend your credit anymore, we're going to shut you down, that is the end of the game.
Yeah.
It's the end of the game. And for a lot of people in this country, because they have not done things in the proper way, that bill that they have on their business is transferred to their homes.
That's correct.
Exasperating the problem.
That's because they go with the individual. This is Steve on, so they come out to Steve private home now.
That's right.
It didn't go through a company.
That's correct.
And
That's
as a
correct.
result of it, you're seeing a lot of that happening right now.
It
in
is
the
happening,
country.
and I'm telling you that if we could have serious people in administrations to go after this particular issue, I'm telling you that this country will thrive. It will thrive. I remember sitting in the offices of a company in Grand Bahama in Freeport, a glass company, and the guy was the owner was telling me, man, his bills are like, hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. And I'm saying, gee, man, how is it sustainable? But it's not sustainable. He closed out. See what I'm saying? And now you're talking about all of these things that are byproducts or derivatives of aragonite and sand.
Right.
But you could do it right there in Freeport, but you can't do it because the energy cost is prohibitive.
Yeah.
And these people have not yet, notwithstanding all of what we have, decided that is what they're going to do. It was absent from the speech from the throne.
It was.
That tells you that is not on their agenda. And this is the difficulty I have with these administrations, because really you should set up what your agenda is. It should not be that midterm you start changing, doing different things, because then you are now doing things that the people, you did not tell the people you would do. And then that becomes an area of misrepresentation because people didn't really put you there to do certain things. But you need to be able to articulate this issue because this is so important, because it drives down the cost not only of people living in the country, but it promotes business to come to the country and business, people who are in business to actually thrive. Because imagine now, not only you paying high electrical costs, but imagine if you're able to save 50% of that. Where would that 50% go? It'll go inside your business. You will invest in your own business as opposed to investing in BEC that's going to be wasted.
Yeah.
And what the government did not say, even while they're talking about the malfeasance of the previous administration, they ought to talk about BPL, because BPL was given almost $1 million to produce a business plan and is yet to surface. I heard no one from this administration speak on it.
Not yet.
They have to, well, gee, come on.
Yeah.
They need to speak on it because those who are responsible.
It's a matter of urgency, really.
They have to speak on it because my view is this, that BPL was just given a contract in order to please the Americans based on the complaint that they had made about the kinds of corruption involved in the tender processes for government contracts. And they just gave it to these people. But these people, I'm telling you, they're not qualified for it. And I believe that Bahamians could run BEC far better than them because they know it. They know the culture. They know the
landscape.
They know the landscape and they know the weather.
Yeah.
The reality is that these people now will not have the political interference. And all we say is you give the Bahamians that same deal, you're not going to politically interfere with them, and you will see what they can produce. But this this administration has to demonstrate that they believe in Bahamians by terminating that contract.
Yeah, well, that's key, terminating the contract. It sounds like, it's wishful thinking that we want it to happen, but nothing's doing. And BPL seemed to be setting setting in there now. They're like, getting hard like cement inside there now. And we've not seen any improvement. We're still getting lights turned off.
Power
every day.
was out last week.
Power was out 3 or 4 times last week, and one day was off 3 times in the Fort Charlotte area, in particular the western part. But island-wide blackouts.
Yes,
that's been happening. I mean, somebody's got to pay attention to that. And then
has
they
not
came up
really
with
arrived
some.
with
They said something about something happened to something the other day, and that's what's the result of this big power outage.
Yeah,
And
we don't really care whether.
We want the lights to stay
We want the
on
lights to
all
stay
the
on.
time.
That's what you want.
And this is a summer now, summer months approaching. I don't know Paul Moss if it has anything to do with the fact that they now have included Bahama on the grid almost full time now because the hotel is open.
Yeah, part of it is open, so
part of it is open.
yeah.
So that is up the load
Yes.
that they have. And so this load shedding that the rest of us are getting is a result of making sure that the lights don't go down where the guests are. To me, it seems like we didn't make enough plans and provisions for this place.
No.
We tried to do some things that it worked against us. I believe it still could be corrected, but BPL has got to be up to scratch. I mean, they've just got to be, and if they're not up to scratch, they've got to find the requisite behavior. People, I was on the show last week, I said, man, go and call all them fellas who used to wait to BEC, because they know exactly where every faulty pole is, where every problematic area is, and we got to keep these lights on.
That is the point. This is what you call culturalization. It's a culture. You know where the culture is. When you go into a new country, you better read up on the culture.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you're going to offend a lot of people, or you could find yourself, locked up.
Yeah.
So you got to know the culture. And I'm saying that I do not think that this company has the requisite expertise to do this. They have run in America. That's fine. This is a third world country. This is a country where we have had problems where we have not been able to maintain the generation of electricity. And so we have not done even the alternative stuff, notwithstanding our sunshine that we have. And I don't think they're up to scratch. And because they have not delivered on what they're supposed to, here is an out for the government. Because
Will
they're
they
talking
take
about
the
saving.
out?
No, they're not going to.
Will they take the out?
Well, listen, my view is that notwithstanding a new administration, they have ridden on the same bicycle. They picked up the bicycle and they're riding in the same
Continue to
direction.
pedal. Yeah.
They continue to pedal. There's no what you call a pivot and say we're going in a different direction. Because if we had that, we would have them speaking to this issue. We would have them speaking about new things as opposed to the same things like ecotourism and all this kind of stuff,
Hard copy, welcome. How you do? Yes, good afternoon. How are you?
Hi, Steve.
Hi there.
How are you?
Very good.
I'm in the Fort Charlotte constituency. My power went out from Saturday 7 p.m. until 4 a.m. Sunday morning. It came on and went back out Sunday morning until 9 o'clock last night. So PPL got to get it together. That is ridiculous, and I've been calling their emergency line, and no one will pick up that line until I call their security and told them I need someone from BPL to come and do something with this light, so they really need to get it together.
I appreciate you sharing with us, but did you call them, so somebody's coming to you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's only you who's off right now, right? I mean, I'm asking you.
Yeah.
In your neighborhood, yeah, that could be some kind of fault to the house after.
I think what happened was
went down.
from the hurricane, they did not fix the wire.
I see.
They realized that they were supposed to come back and fix the wire to the pole, and that was the problem.
Well, if they're listening now, they would have heard you. Where in Jippenham you live?
Rosebud Street.
Rosebud, yeah, the funny area. Yeah, okay. Well, thank you for calling.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Paul, there's a lot of slackness in our system. When the storm came, not only was BPL affected in a way and impacted that they couldn't catch everything and some things happened outside of their area of expertise. But some things happen even in the business of cable Bahamas. Some things happen in the business of a number of things, because here it is, people have been seeing in certain parts of Cable Bahamas that the thing is blinking in and out. In certain areas, if you go perhaps in the east, it may be happening. In the west, it's nice and clear. So some things have happened as part of that junction boxes or exchange, whatever they call them. And there's some stations that can be heard in the west that can't be heard in the east. And this is from the hurricane. This has been happening. Reports have gone to Cable Bahamas. They know of it. They are trying their best to fix it, but it's one of those little problems that is a hairline problem. Like you can't see it. It's somewhere in there, and they know it's there, but you can't figure it out. And they've been troubleshooting that, and they have not gotten it yet because there are people in the east who can't see or hear certain radio stations or even see certain channels. Wow. And then there are people in the west who get perfect signals from certain things. There are people in the south who getting the signals break up. I've been trying to watch in the west. I'm in the west. I've been trying to watch the new show with Jerome on in the evening time. I think it comes on Thursdays, right? I look in on it, and it's jumping it all over the place. It's breaking up. And I said, well, how come I can't see this thing in this area? You could go in the south, you could see it. You know, something is the generation of whatever's happening, something is wrong, but we don't seem to have enough people calling and even complaining about that. They just rest it and say, well, the TV acting up again. And because we don't report these things, the regulators really can't do nothing about it because the rules are that you've got to report to the regulators after you would have reported something to the actual persons who are doing the infraction themselves.
Those rules ought to be changed.
Yeah, they ought to be changed. I think that they're not written properly, and I think they were not written with us in mind. Again, culture. Some people came here, Usman Sadat and them came here from Seychelles or wherever, wrote down some things for IRCA, the rules and the policies. And this whole thing about reporting to the persons who did the infraction and you complaining about them, if you don't write them people first, there's nothing that Cable can, there's nothing that IRCA can do for you.
It is absolute nonsense. I mean, that makes no sense because
crazy.
IRCA is a part of the community. What I would call, they call a law judicial notice. They know what is going on. They shouldn't have to wait.
They do.
Someone have to write into Cable to come to them. They should be able to jump on it right away. But it just shows you how the people of this country have been beaten down.
You think they're just tired?
Just tired, man.
Man, they
I mean,
they got to shake it off and get it together.
Nothing works. I mean, I've never subscribed to Cable. Never had it.
Yeah.
Right? But when I go with my mom and it's on, I'm just shocked at the quality.
Yeah.
And how people they just accept it, you know. Or the cable ain't out. Man, come on. That's all because we've been beaten down. You know, we have to write to them to complain. Some people don't have the time to write to them. Yeah. And even when you call them, you're number 236 on the list. I mean, come on, think about it.
Hold the line until they get to you.
Yeah.
No, the service is not good. The service is good in that they try to provide you with some stuff. And I've been noticing too, and I don't want to get on Cable, you know, because I'm trying to see how best they can pull it all together and really bring stuff to the nation. But I've been noticing that certain channels, the same movies are on every weekend. And I'm wondering how that could be.
That must be sadness for back in the day.
I watched this picture on Cable on one channel, and it was on that Saturday before. Then they advertised it's coming on again that Saturday. I said, this can't be from the network. I said, these fellas must be recording this to play. It can't be from the network. You know, I mean, the ABC or the NBC network. They can't be showing you the same movie every weekend.
I doubt it.
The same exact thing. Check it out. I'm telling you, this is absolutely true. I won't lie about it. But this is all a part of how we have perhaps been down to the point where the empathy, the apathy is what I'm talking about. The apathy of people just we don't know. Whatever. I guess that's how it is.
Because you heard the caller who said that she called and no one answered the phone. Man, you can expect that.
Yeah.
You could call, man, they're not gonna answer the phone.
No.
They're gonna do it.
My goodness.
Much less respond to
so what this tells us today, Paul, is that we've got a lot of work to do, eh? I mean, we've got a people who are so burdened that their whole thing is that, well, apathy. Well, I don't know. Then you've got some people who just don't care about nothing. Then you've got some companies who, well, once that money come in and be good. Then you've got some regulators who are, I did not know that. Did you write? You know, it's all this fooling around, and people just had it. And we've got the government now trying to do a good job. They're trying their best to see what they can get done, but it's empty because of the fact that people are not participating to the point where they can say, We want to keep your feet to the fire in the best way possible, and that is by complaining to you about these things aren't working. You need to try that. You need to try this. But there's non-participation. So I suppose everything is just hanging out however it goes, everything with Buckup goes. That's what is happening now.
But that's unfortunate. I think that it's clear. I know that the vision for the country has to be set. I mean, there's no doubt. I understand Dr. Minister is supposed to be speaking to the nation in July, somewhere like that. I mean, I just think that kind of set date is absolute foolishness to me. I believe that you speak because you are the leader. You don't have to have a set time to speak. You could have your set time for your press conferences.
Yeah, impromptu, you can just do some things right
but
away.
You just need to speak.
Yeah.
You don't, I mean, he's the CEO. He's a CEO. And if the CEO knows that he sees his employees every day, and in the case, he sees his employers every day, in our case, that he ought to be able to articulate something for them, because what is happening now is that when he speaks, it is not just for locals, it's for the international community. And when the international community has saying there's a new administration, but they have not heard the vision from the leader, they do not know whether to come or go.
Yeah.
And that is what we have today. And then you have people who are not going prepared. It seems that in the part of their cutback, they're not going to be doing any or much traveling, which is good to the extent that you could cut out the waste travel, but there are essential travel that you must do.
Yeah.
And you got to go out there and go get business.
Go get some business.
You have to go on the road, bro.
Yeah.
It's called the road show. You got to go on the road.
Couldn't private sector, decide that they're going to put together a group of people, and they're going to go to the government and say, look, we've got a group of people that we believe want to go down to Malaysia. A group of people want to go to Argentina. A group of people that want to go to Costa Rica, wherever it is. A group of people that want to go down to Canada. We want to see if we can raise monies by having these groups of people supported by the government, of course, government representatives as well, to go and showcase what we selling, what we have, the things that we want to see, increase in the Bahamas by inviting joint partnership, inviting investments, that kind of thing. Do you think that they would be open-minded to something like that? Because maybe this has to be driven by the private sector. Maybe the private sector ought to put together all these fellows from the Chamber of Commerce and other business savvy fellows. And I don't want to say them, I just use them as an example.
right.
Maybe there's just private business people who want to go and find out, is there any opportunities for real, I suppose, enterprising businesses like small businesses in manufacturing, those kinds of things that we can bring here and get some things done.
Well, I'll tell you, having been as a private person, private businessman on some of those trips, I've been on those trips before.
Right.
With other private businessmen going down and looking at these things. The reality is that you can do that on a personal level. But when you want to engage the cooperation of a state, of a nation, it has to be on that level.
Right.
So that diplomatically they could have these kinds of arrangements. We have all seen like state visits, et cetera, like that. But I'm not sure that we have had that kind of visitation. We've gone to common heads of agreement. We've gone to these conferences, but it's not like we've gone to a nation with the specific purpose of having cooperation in terms of trade, so that we can have those things to happen. We've done things through CARICOM. We believe that we should go that route. But the reality is that you got to stand, each step got to stand on its own bottom. And the Bahamian administration, those people who are charged with it, are able to reach at the top level that we can't as private people get to, that is to engage the country, so that if they come across these things, like for example, I told you about the 3-wheel cars that I tried to initiate for Grand Bahama. Those are things that can happen. So you speak on that level, then you have the cooperation to allow certain things to happen. The Bahamas has much to offer. We could have what I call reciprocation of talents in terms of persons who can come here and people who can leave the Bahamas to go there to give their talents that way. And it could be mutually beneficial to all. But the idea that you suggested has been done before. Many people have done those things. And I think, though, that I get it, but the private public partnership, if you will, with respect to that. But that should happen, and it's happened in the past. But the prime minister needs to be,
the one to
he
initiate.
needs to be the one.
I see.
Because even when you have done it with others, when you go there, even with government people, they can administer on that level. But you're not going to get the leader of the country essentially to be engaged if you have your foreign minister. He will deal with other foreign ministers. But if the leader is engaged, then the leader of that state is involved.
Yeah.
And so that is what is required.
Understood. And if they were to do a team like that, I mean, who would be some of the key players on a team like that? You'll have to have your Minister of Finance. You'll have to have your Prime Minister, the Minister of Finance. You'll have to have those kinds of, I mean, at the governmental level.
Well, I would say the Prime Minister definitely, the Minister of Trade. I think that's important. And the Foreign Minister, I think the Foreign Minister, we have to understand that when you are a nation must have relationships. If you go back to the old days where you had imperialism and colonialism, those countries that colonized countries like ours, the first thing that they would do is have a port. We need to have embassies and consulates in countries. You're not going to have any kind of relationship unless you have those things. That's how you build it.
So ministers has got to get his ambassadors and all these kinds of people organized to get out to these different missions, and then he's got to look at new places.
Yeah,
to
but
go.
the problem is that the ambassadors tend to be cronies. They tend to be people who you're putting in place.
They're not real people who want to go there and get some things
Right,
done.
they're going to be senior people who are not going, in my view, have the energy to go out there and really be able to attract the kind of business. See, those embassies and those tourist office, they ought to be combined, if you will. You have to be able to set up things to make it happen. I tell you, like in Dubai, for example, there's no consulate, there's no embassy, there's nothing. When something has to be authenticated, it has to go from, say, Abu Dhabi to London. Takes about 6 weeks, 8 weeks, costs you around £3,000. It's not interesting to do business in the Bahamas that way, if that is the case. If you have a consulate there, you're able to authenticate documents on the spot. So instead of costing you £3,000, it costs you $30. You see what I'm saying? This is what is required. And that is what they have to be engaged with. You have to engage the world, but you have to engage it in a professional way to know that if you're a country, you got to have embassies. You cannot have, for example, an embassy. We've had it for time immemorial in the UK. The UK now was never a part of Europe physically. It was an island sitting out there, right? Now, with Brexit, it's not a part of Europe.
Right.
So you have to now be thinking on those things that we need to put an embassy in the EU. This is how you do it, because if you're not going to get even business arrangements because people can't even inquire
You're
about what
absent.
is.
That's what you're saying. You're absent from it.
Absolutely. And this is what is required. And I tell you, even in Washington, we need to have stellar people down there, people who understand what is going on, because the Bahamas is in a war with the OECD, and we could use leverage based on our proximity and based on our cooperation with the United States to have people down there who will lobby for us. But we don't do that either.
Hard copy, how are you? Hello, welcome. How are you? Okay, supposed to God. Paul, there's a whole mouthful here said today, and maybe some of the things that you have put out there and suggested can be adopted by those who are in the chair. And I suppose that the government is open-minded for ideas. I think it's good. I think it's good that we have these discourse in the country, because of this kind of discourse in the country, because the truth be told, we're running on empty when it comes to the creative idea. And for some reason, I sense that people have just blacked out. They're just kind of like, they're laid back. They're not too particular. And that this sap and energy could be because they don't feel the energy emanating from on high. And sometimes
this is why it's important for us to hear from the leader who's going to inspire the people. The people have to be inspired. The speech, Dr. Minnis, has to be inspiring. It cannot be a speech written by technocrats who are going to talk airy-fairy things that the people have heard before and they do not believe. It has to be something that they absolutely believe. And the part to make sure that you can get them to be interested is to actually speak with them. Let them tell you what they want and what would be required to jumpstart economies of different islands or the economy of the Bahamas generally. That is very important.
Yeah. And well, let's keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best and wish that we're going to see some of that. The budget communication, the budget debate will end on Wednesday or Thursday of this week. And so perhaps when they're finished with that, they can start to look at some other areas of our development, and they can get busy with enunciating a solid plan of action for X,
it's gonna be interesting to see what their first act is that they pass. I want to see that first bill that they pass. Well, I would say they should pass the ombudsman bill.
Yeah,
that's what they promised.
Yeah,
that's what they should come with, because that would tell you how serious they are in it. You don't want to find this coming in 2 years later or when you're about to leave. That's what you're doing, because that's the playbook too. That's the playbook that we've seen
part of the
before.
playbook.
That's a part of the playbook.
So the ombudsman coming in, set the tone. He's like the fella, the equalizer.
Right.
He'd be like the fella, who's going to be, or the person. I don't want to say the fella, because the ombudsman could be a nice, beautiful lady who has her hands on the pulse of the nation, knows exactly what to do. But that person is key, because they would be able to set out what this office of the ombudsman is all about, and how they're going to regulate some things and bring balance to things and bring fair play to things, without any partisanship.
Yeah.
You see, that's the whole key.
Well, I hope we have a working parliament. I believe that this whole part-time parliament stuff that we have is really outdated.
So you support the idea too? Then maybe Parliament ought to be full-time.
Absolutely,
and the members of Parliament need to be full-time, and
no
they need to be paid.
Absolutely.
If you put them full-time, they're going to be paid the requisite compensation.
Yes, absolutely. I believe that's what is required. That is a job.
Their job
is serious business. It is not a part-time business.
Jobs.
It's not a part-time business. You have to be serious about it, and it's called governance. That's how come we find ourselves in these problems.
So what do you think is a good, fair salary for a man who is an elected member of Parliament, and he needs to make sure that he has all the office staff and everything to really run?
Well, the office staff will be provided by the state.
Yeah.
But certainly a salary for a person who's an ordinary MP, I would say up to maybe $80,000.
Yeah.
And then for those cabinet ministers, you're probably talking like $150,000, $200,000, whatever the case may be, because what has been happening in our country is
this means that they will have to divest themselves of all these other things.
Absolutely.
And they're just full-time, as you say.
That's what you want.
Because that would perhaps benefit the country more in the long run, even though it sounds expensive right now.
Let me tell you something. Prior to the advent of majority rule, the cabinet ministers were working for free.
Yeah,
they call it for free.
Yeah,
but they were being paid in other ways.
That's right.
And the same thing we see going on now, where you have these people working, supposedly in quotes, working for $28,000, but then they're being paid in other ways.
Yeah.
And so we have to cut that up, because it lends itself to corruption. Historically, we've seen that. We know what's going on.
Yeah.
And so we just need to correct it.
Nepotism and the rest of it, that's what it lends itself to, because this one, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. This family member gets something, kisses go by favor.
You part the contract.
Yeah.
You part the contract.
Pardon the contract is a new way now. Well, it's an old way, but it has come back. We have seen that happening in a bold way.
Yeah.
Pardon of contracts.
You part the contract, or you get foreigners to do the job, because the foreigners, they're not going to complain if you're going to give them the job, and you say, well, you got to give me 10% or whatever whatever it is.
Too happy to do that.
They said, man, that's no problem, because this is overinflated anyway.
Anyway, somebody had texted me earlier to talk about that you had raised this thing about VAT, and they wanted to know, how do you substantiate your claim about this whole VAT thing being a big increase sometime in the future, like the 10% increase that you talked about, and possibly another increase?
Well, it's really 10% is going to be 2.5% increase, but
from 7.5 to 2.5 to bring it to 10%.
Right.
But
it's very easy to justify it. We could look at the 7.5% that supposedly yielded upward of $1 billion over the last 2.5 years or so. And then you go look at the deficit that, notwithstanding that money, there was still a shortfall of $500 million, right? If they want to continue to spend the money without having any kind of fiscal restraint, They can't keep running up the deficit like that because it goes to the debt.
Mhm.
They need to now make sure they can bring in sufficient money so they can continue to spend. They ain't talking about stopping spending.
Mm.
They want to spend. And so the experts will tell them that you have to increase. And it's very easy for them to increase because then they do nothing.
Mm.
They just put it on the people and everyone charges for the services.
So this is not an irresponsible statement you're saying. This is a conjecture, but it's almost based upon
No,
past practices
it's best
in other countries.
It's based on how we have seen it. And guess what? They will tell you that 7.5% is the lowest in the region.
Yeah.
Listen, this is not rocket science. This is very easy to see. If you have a deficit,
Mhm.
you're in business. If you know that there's a deficit and you need to go up on your rates in order to cut the deficit down, that's what you do.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. They saw that there was a deficit. They had to implement a new tax.
Yeah.
That's what they did.
Mhm.
And even though they took in more money than they had anticipated,
Mhm.
it was still not sufficient because they never cut down on their own spending. And they have not said that they're going to cut down on their own spending because they, out of the bat, they bought $300 million. That tells you that they spend thrift too.
Yeah.
Okay. So what they would do is increase it. I expect that. I expect it.
So that's what that's based upon. I appreciate it. Well, Paul, I mean, it's been a pleasure talking with you again. A lot of times when we sit down and have these little brain sessions, the whole point is about trying to spark thought and ideas that we can start to work around. Because the truth be told, whether we like it or not, there's not been much talk from the government side at this point because they're doing the budget, except to say that it's been all about all the wastage of the other guys.
Mhm.
And the thing now is that how are we gonna put on a safety net to stop this wastage? How are we gonna make sure that people are not gonna be corrupt as they appear to have been? And what we're gonna be doing going forward? Because that's what people really want to know.
Yes.
They don't want to just be saddled with the fact that, boy, we got all this stuff that we've been doing and we ain't getting the show for it, and more bills coming and all these taxes and these people spend this money like drunken sailors. Yeah, we want to pivot from that and know now that, okay, so all that has been done. Here's the pivot point. Here's the new direction. And here are plans to go with it that can empower me, you, and everybody else. I think that's what people are really looking forward to. Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah. All right. Well, Stevie, let's go home. Hard Copy's been brought to you today by the people who make it happen every day. And of course, we look at our sponsors here and we say, hey, thank you very much. Interior, exterior, windows and doors. Bike in the Bahamas, Assemblies of God, Mount Table's Inspiration, Bahamas Foot and Ankle on Blake Road, Super Value, the All Bahama Supermarkets, Rocky Farms Nursery, Water and Sewage Corporation, Ministry of Tourism, Echo Water, Commonwealth Bank, the new debit card, Cool Tech, the air canoe experts on Tony Williams Darling Highway, Bahamian Brewery and Beverages, Super Wash with 11 locations, Advantage Insurance and Brokers, 61 Collins Avenue, Executive Printers on Broome Avenue, the Laser Check Prints, they do them right, and the McKinney Media Group Limited. Advertisement, public relations, that's our brand. That's what we do. If you want the best of it, you need to call us because we're ready to work with you. And we thank you so much. Tomorrow on the show, we're going to be talking with none other than Dr. Rex Major. And he's going to be here because we want to put the complexion of what a country like this is all about, how we have to bring a lot of things into focus about the crime and the stagnant economy, but also the spirituality. We are a people who are going places if we only would stick with those things in the preamble of the Constitution. We're going to be talking about that tomorrow with Pastor Rex Major, and it's going to be live at 5 right here on Hard Copy. So, good night from Hard Copy, God willing. We'll see you tomorrow.
This is Peace Radio After Dark.